Hello, you're watching Broadcasting Scotland. I'm Hugh Stewart reading today's news, the 22nd of October. We will begin as usual with the coronavirus update. As of 2 pm today, a total of 3,356,097 people in Scotland have been tested through the NHS Scotland labs and UK government regional testing centres since the start of the pandemic. Of these, 2,735,664 have been confirmed negative, 620,433 have tested positive. There are 2,902 new cases of COVID-19 confirmed by a test, although not everyone with the virus will display symptoms, and not all of those with symptoms will be tested. There are 19 reported deaths of people who have tested positive. The number of patients in Scotland who have died from complications caused by the coronavirus infection now stands at 9,031. This number only includes those who have died having received a positive test for the virus in the previous 28 days. Of the people who tested positive, 894 were in hospital last night, 60 of whom were in intensive care. As of 8 am this morning, 4,299,649 people had received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccination, and 3,888,408 had received their second dose. The latest UK daily figures were not available at the time we produced this programme. Spending per pupil is the highest in Scotland compared to the other parts of the UK, according to a new report for the Institute for Fiscal Studies, the IFS. The report found that Scotland spends more than £7,500 per pupil compared to £6,700 in England, £6,600 in Wales and £6,400 in Northern Ireland. Spending on pupils in Scotland increased by 6% over a decade, with IFS researchers finding that spending in Scotland was driven by large increases in teacher pay between 2018 and 2019. Commenting, SNP, MSP and registered teacher Hugh Stewart said these figures demonstrate the commitment of the Scottish Government to Scotland's pupils and ensuring that each and every one of them has the opportunity to excel in their education. Ms Stewart said that the investment is paying off, with school building now being in the best condition since records began, and teacher numbers are higher than they've been since 2008. The number of higher passes was at its highest since devolution. The number of Scottish students accepted to university is also at a record high. The Glasgow Kelvin MSP said, "As we move out of the pandemic and into recovery, it is vital that our schools are put on a footing to continue to get the best for Scotland's young people. Closing the poverty-related attainment gap remains one of the SNP government's defining missions. That's why over the course of this Parliament we will invest a further £1 billion with the refreshed Scottish Attainment Challenge." The UK's largest business lobby group has warned Rishi Sunak that his tax and spending plans risk undercutting government ambitions for a green, high-wage economy by discouraging the necessary investment. Ahead of the Chancellor's budget next week, the CBI said that there were fundamental inconsistencies in the government's economic strategy that needed urgent attention. It said Boris Johnson was betting the shop on private sector investment to hit net zero targets and raise economic productivity. But the government was doing too little to encourage firms, instead hitting them with higher taxes. In a stinging critique ahead of the budget, Tony Danker, CBI Director General, compared government attacks on business over the supply chain crisis with the Prime Minister's Global Investment Summit earlier this week. Ministers unveiled plans on Tuesday that said they would create up to 440,000 jobs and unlock £90 billion in investment over the next decade, most of it from private sector firms. However, Mr Danker said they contained fundamental flaws amid an increasingly frosty relationship between company bosses and the Conservatives. So far this year, Boris Johnson and his Chancellor have announced plans to raise taxes by £36 billion a year, a bigger rise than at any budget since the mid-1970s, including a sharp rise in corporation tax and through national insurance contributions paid by employers and workers. It comes while there's growing concern over the impact of severe supply chain shortages holding back the economic recovery from COVID-19. On Thursday, a closely watched survey compiled by the CBI showed manufacturers were suffering with the worst shortages since 1975, harking back to a period of galloping inflation and industrial strife amid the fallout from COVID and Brexit disruption. Ahead of next week's budget, company bosses are pushing for changes to business rates, in particular warning that the system that taxes firms based on the properties they occupy is outdated and risks holding back billions of pounds of investment. In Westminster today, the UK government blocked support for legislation which would curb firms' ability to lay staff off and take them back on poorer terms. The tactic of hire and refire, fire and rehire, where workers are threatened with job losses if they do not sign up for lower pay and conditions, has been used by major corporations throughout the pandemic. Commenting, Gavin Newlands MP said, "Today's decision only highlights the need for Scotland to become an independent country. Throughout the pandemic, we have seen a UK government unwilling to take serious action to protect workers' rights. Today was an opportunity for the Tories to change that rhetoric by backing Gary Gardner's bill. Instead, they decided to hide behind archaic parliamentary procedure to avoid even voting on the bill, and in doing so, will hammer thousands of workers across the UK." Norway's new centre-left government on Friday proposed a one-day payment of up to 3,070 krone for people receiving housing support in southern Norway to offset the impact of record high power prices. The country is the latest to try to mitigate the impact of high power prices on its citizens. On Thursday, France announced a €100 payment, while the European Union recently announced a number of measures it would consider to shield consumers. We see that the high power prices can be a big burden, especially for those with weak finances, Minister for Local Government and District Policy Bjorn Aridgram said in a statement. The proposed additional payment in November would apply to around 66,000 recipients of housing support in southern Norway out of a total population of 5.4 billion. The House of Representatives has voted to hold Donald Trump's former chief strategist Steve Bannon in criminal contempt of Congress over his refusal to comply with a subpoena issued by the House Select Committee investigating the 6th of January Capitol attack. Approval of the contempt citation by 229 votes to 202 against escalates the Select Committee's efforts to punish Bannon for his non-compliance as they intensified their inquiry into whether the then President Trump helped plan or had advanced knowledge of the insurrection. The House Select Committee Chair, Benny Thompson, Democrat congressman from Mississippi, said that authorization of a criminal referral against Bannon signaled their determination to deploy the most aggressive measures to take action both against Bannon and any other Trump aides who might ultimately defy subpoenas. We need to make it clear that no person is above the law. We need to take a stand for the committee's investigation and for the integrity of this body, Thompson said on the House floor. The move to request the Justice Department to prosecute Trump's former chief strategist also marks a stinging personal rebuke to Bannon and opens a new legal front in the Select Committee's efforts to pursue information from inside the White House and Trump circles before the 6th of January. Members on the Select Committee recommended that the House hold Bannon in criminal contempt after they unanimously rejected the notion that Trump's former chief strategist could claim absolute immunity from congressional oversight on the grounds of executive privilege. The referral arrived on Thursday evening at the office of the US Attorney for the District of Columbia. That office, Attorney General Merrick Garland, and the Office of Legal Counsel are required by law to consider a prosecution and present the matter before a grand jury. Should the Justice Department secure a conviction against Bannon, the consequences could mean up to a year in federal prison, $100,000 in fines, or both. The Select Committee views Bannon's testimony as crucial to their investigation since he was in constant contact with Trump in the days and weeks leading up to the Capitol attack. Cinematographer Halyna Hutchins has died following a shooting accident with a prop gun fired by actor and producer Alex Baldwin on the film set of Rust. A statement from a Santa Fe sheriff's office said Baldwin, who is acting in and producing the film Rust, had fired the prop gun in an incident on Thursday, adding, "The sheriff's office confirms that 2 individuals were shot on the set of Rust. Halyna Hutchins, 42, director of photography, and Joel Souza, 48, director, were shot when a prop firearm was discharged by Alex Baldwin, 68, producer and actor," it said. A spokesman for Baldwin said that there was an accident on the set involving the misfire of a prop gun with blanks. The Santa Fe New Mexican reported Baldwin was seen on Thursday outside the sheriff's office in tears, but attempts to get comments from him were unsuccessful. Production has been halted on the film, which was being directed by Souza, with Baldwin producing and starring in it. Halyna Hutchins was director of photography on the 2020 action film Arch Enemy, starring Joe Manganiello. A 2015 graduate of the American Film Institute, she was named a Rising Star by American Cinematographer in 2019. Ensuring Social Security benefits are accessible to all who are eligible will be vital in helping people on low incomes deal with the aftermath of the pandemic, Social Justice Secretary Shona Robinson has said. Scotland's new benefit take-up strategy outlines plans to make sure that nobody misses out on financial support due to a lack of awareness or barriers to applying. Action from the strategy, which builds on learning from the first in 2019, include working with partners to improve targeting of information and advice, challenging myths and stigma around claiming benefits, and continuing to remove barriers to accessing social security in Scotland. The Scottish Government will also explore the introduction of automatic payment for certain devolved social security benefits to make it as easy as possible for people to maximise their incomes, Ms. Robertson said. Social security is a collective investment in building a better and fairer society, and part of that is ensuring people are aware of and can access the financial support to which they are entitled. A number of changes to the board of directors at Glasgow Prestwick Airport have been confirmed as part of the succession planning at the business. Andrew Miller, current non-executive chair of TS Prestwick Holdings Company Limited and Prestwick Aviation Holdings Limited, will step down from his position on the 31st of October 2021. He will be replaced by Forsyth Black, who previously had a 19-year career at John Mingus plc, including Chief Executive Officer, and President and Managing Director of Menzies Aviation until 2019, presiding over a record period of growth and profitability through a network of over 200 airport operations in over 30 countries. Mr. Black's appointment is effective from the 18th of October 2021. Additionally, 2 new appointments have been added to the board. Willie Mackey and Bill McPherson have joined the Prestwick Aviation Holdings Limited board as non-executive directors. Willie Mackey joins to replace Beth Corcoran, who has completed her term of office and is due to step down later this year. Funding of £600,000 further supports the sustainable development of Scotland's blue economy. Scottish Government funding of over $600,000 is set to trigger the expansion of an innovative seaweed company. Mara Seaweed will use this funding to increase its processing facility and explore new markets. Seaweed is considered a sustainable high nutrition food source with a host of health benefits, and they also have a positive impact on the atmosphere, taking up significant quantities of carbon dioxide each year. The funding is being awarded through the £14 million Marine Fund Scotland and will allow the Edinburgh-based Mara to expand its seaweed processing facility in Fife and increase its footprint in the global marketplace. International demand for high-quality seaweed for use as a food source and health supplement is increasing, and the funding will help Mara achieve its growth targets. Announcing the funding, Rural Affairs Secretary Mary Gudgeon said, "This funding will support Mara Seaweed in furthering their commitment and in creating more innovative and exciting products." The Scottish Government has agreed that Fife College can progress to the next stage of its project to deliver the first net zero tertiary education building in Scotland. Having submitted the business case for the new Dunfermline campus in August, Scottish ministers agreed to invest up to £100 million in providing a low-carbon, modern, flexible learning space for students. Within the £100 million funding, additional money has been made available by the Scottish Government to ensure that the project goes beyond net zero targets and doesn't just offset carbon dioxide emissions, but continues to deliver reductions in operational carbon after completion. Low embodied carbon construction materials will be specified for the project and will include materials with high recycled content. Waste will be minimised throughout the design process, and there will be a strong focus on diverting as much of the construction waste from landfill as possible. These steps will help deliver the Scottish Government's target for transforming buildings and the systems that supply their heat to ensure a transition to net zero emissions by 2045, in line with the Climate Change Act of 2019. A 10-metre tall puppet storm will make an appearance in Glasgow, and many projects are already well underway in the run-up to the climate conference, including the launch of climate beacon hubs in 7 locations across Scotland. Storm is a huge sea goddess puppet made up entirely of recycled materials with oyster shells for eyes and kelp for hair, and is created by Vision Mechanics. She is due to walk in Govan on the 10th of November. Led by Creative Carbon Scotland, the Climate Beacons project is a collaboration between climate change, environmental arts, heritage and culture organisations to stimulate long-term public engagement in climate change. The hubs throughout Scotland include Argyll, Caithness and East Sutherland, Fife and Inverclyde, and will provide information about climate change in each local area. The hubs will be run as sustainably as possible, with many of the projects and activities using recycled materials. For instance, the Message in a Bottle project in the Outer Hebrides will send messages to people at COP26 in plastic bottles washed up on the beach, and at the Midlothian Hub and National Mining Museum in Scotland will feature outdoor clay sculptures that will eventually degrade back into the earth. Creative Carbon Scotland's film Climate Action Needs Culture, made in collaboration with natural culture and heritage organisations, will be shown to a variety of cultural leaders and policymakers on November the 5th as a virtual event. Scotland's 5 national performing arts companies, each receiving regular support from the Scottish Government, are among the many cultural organisations across Scotland organising events around COP26. On the 31st of October, the Scottish Chamber Orchestra will premiere Symbiosis, a new commission for strings in a 20-minute video. The Royal Scottish National Orchestra will give a pop-up performance at ScotRail's Haymarket Station on the 1st of November to welcome delegates to COP26, while the RSNO Junior Chorus will perform a selection of specially commissioned green songs in the official COP26 Green Zone the following day. Scottish Opera have launched an intergalactic view of climate change in The Last of the Aliens, an opera for primary school children. Schools can access the production online now, with live tours planned next year. Schools and communities across Scotland and India have created 100 shoes for a digital shoe shop as part of Millipede, the National Theatre of Scotland's collaboration with Think Arts, a Kolkata-based children's organisation. Launching on the 1st of November, the interactive art installation will explore personal responses to climate change and carbon footprints through a range of creative activities. And that's it from Scotland at 7 tonight. Don't forget to tune in on Sunday for full Scottish. If you would like to help us make more programmes, then please look at the information below and consider subscribing to the channel. Good night.